Welcome back and congratulations on finishing your raglan increases. For those of you who are knitting the larger adult sizes, good news, bad news, you have some more increasing to do. We'll get to that in a second. All right, so we have worked our round 1 and 2 for the appropriate number of times, and we have checked to make sure that these stitch totals match what we have on our needles now, and also that the sleeve and front backs have the appropriate number of stitches. If at this point you're finding that these stitch counts are not correct, I would go ahead and figure out where you're missing stitches or where you need to add stitches to your sleeve and back or front, and then go ahead and just knit another row and add those increases or work a decrease where appropriate. So moving on in our pattern here, if we are knitting sizes 0 to 6 months to adult large, we're done with increases and we're going to move to the next step. I'll get there in a second. If you have chosen your own adventure for a larger adult size, meaning XL to 6XL, we have a couple more increase sections to work. So for round 3, that'll just be the next round. You're going to work an increase round as you had before. No different increases than what you've been doing before. And then on the very next round, we're not going to knit around even, because before we were doing increase round, then an even round, then an increase round, then an even round. We're going to do immediately another increase round, and this will be increasing on the purl rows that you're doing for the garter stitch panel, if you're doing that. So it'll be 2 increase rounds in a row, and you will do that a total of this many times. Be sure to check. You might be used to doing, say, the 4th bold set of directions. That will not be the case here. Notice up here it starts with XL, then the XXL, then the 3X. So as you're reading that down here, it is 2 for the XL, 2 for the XXL, etc. Happy news is they have put your stitch counts in here, so you'll know when you're finished with that whether or not you are on track. Same with the sleeve and the front back. After you've done that, we are doing a round where you will only be doing the increases on the front and the back. So you're skipping the increasing on the sleeve. This is making your front and back larger while leaving the sleeve width where it is. So you will do that for round 5. Then you'll do the same for round 6, making sure you're purling for the garter panel if you're doing that. So you will be doing that a couple of more times, 2 or 3 more times, depending on the size you're doing. Again, checking the stitch counts. This feels like a whole lot of counting, but it is going to be worth it so that your fronts and backs match, your sleeves match, and everything is going to be proportional for you. Okay, check yoke depth. So this is where we will all come together again, no matter what size you're knitting. And we're going to get our tape measure out and measure where we're at in the yoke depth. For me, with the smallest size here, I'm looking for 3.25 inches, maybe up to 10.5 inches if you're knitting the largest size. So you will measure that. What we're going to do here, in addition to measuring, is we're going to check that the yoke depth is appropriate for us by trying it on, if you have the person handy that you're knitting for. I'm actually going to see if I can find a doll or something, because I'm knitting this baby and for the baby size, and I don't have a baby. But I'm going to switch cameras and I'll show you how to do that and what you are looking for. If you need more rows because it's not long enough, then you will just continue knitting rows without any increases, but making sure to keep your garter panel as it has been by knitting one round, purling one round until you get to the desired length. And if you find that you are already too long, which I've never had happen, but it could, I suppose. If you're finding that it's too long, then you are going to need to rip back some rows, and then when you're to the point where you are knitting round 1 and 2, you will just do round 1 and skip round 2 for because round 2 does not increase. So you will be doing several rows of round 1 in a row so that you are increasing faster and it won't be as long when you're done. Also, just a reminder to, if you're doing that, to keep doing your garter panel as you've established it when you're doing the increase rounds, because we were used to doing increase rounds when there was no purling, but you will have to purl in those rounds. I hope that makes sense. If you get stuck on that, send me a DM or put it in the comments and I'll help you work through that. All right, let's switch cameras and I'll show you how to check your yoke depth on a person, or in my case, a stuffy toy. Okay, I'm going to show you how to try on your sweater at this point. I'm making the little baby size. I do not have a baby handy. So this is Teddy, super original name. I've had him since I was 2. He only has one eye. His ears have been re-sewn on too many times to count. He's been restuffed. I still love him. Okay, but where he's standing in today for a baby. So I measured from here where I cast on down to the bottom. I have 3 1/4 inches, which is what the pattern says. What you will do if you're knitting it for you or someone that you have handy is put it on them. To make this happen, because I did have this on a 16-inch needle and my stitches are kind of bunched up, so there was really no way that we could accurately put it on a person. I went ahead and knit half the stitches onto a second needle so that it gave me the circumference I needed. If you're knitting an adult size, even that might not be enough. You may have to take a tapestry needle and a piece of waste yarn, put all of your stitches on it, and so you're able to stretch out those stitches to where they will lay flat. This seems like a waste of time. It will not be a waste of time later when your sweater fits, I promise. So here I have it on. You can see my garter stitch panel. I'm putting that right over the shoulder on to where the arm's going to be. And what I'm looking for is for the yoke to go down and be at about where the armpit is going to be, and is the sleeve part, when you kind of pull it down, you're not going to want to pull it real tight, but you're going to be able to gauge about, this is more difficult than I expected. Is it going to be able to come together, and are you going to be able to have, is it long enough this way to come down far enough to be under your armpit? Now, where your marker is and where your marker is does not necessarily have to come all the way together at the bottom. This is, but this is also not human, because we are going to, in the next step, cast on a few stitches under the arm to account for the fact that our body needs some extra space under the arm. So right now we're mostly looking for, is the yoke long enough that when I take the stitches off here to put on hold for the sleeve that we'll do later. Is it going to be long enough to come down to be under your arm? If no, we will just add more rounds without increasing until we get to that point. So my little guy is looking pretty fly, and it is long enough, and it matches what the pattern says. So we will be moving on to the next directions.